Happy Friday. Welcome to a special edition of WBAG Sports Off the Bench, presented to you as always by the good folks over at Buffalo Lanes in Mebane, 103 South 5th Street. They've got 18 state-of-the-art bowling lanes, a full arcade, 10 duck pin lanes for the younger members of your herd, and the in-house restaurant, the Pig Pen, will send you home with a full belly as well. That's 103 South 5th Street in Mebane. Stop in, tell them WBAG sent you. As I mentioned, it's Friday. It's a special episode of Off the Bench. We've got a very fun conversation coming up with head coach of the Graham Red Devils football team, Coach Mykel Searcy. Coach Searcy and I discussed the offseason, what he expects going into year two, and how Graham can take a step forward from the season they had last year. It's a very fun conversation. You're not going to want to miss it. Before we jump right into it, got to remind you, please hit that subscribe button, leave a like and a comment down in the comments section. Really helps us continue to grow the page and bring you more Alamance County sports coverage. Folks, it's time to get off the bench.
It's time to get off the bench with WBAG Sports, Alamance County's premier sports coverage since 1947.
All right, joining us today, coming off the bench with us, a very special guest. He is the head coach of the Graham Red Devils football team, Coach Mykel Searcy. Coach, I want to thank you so much for sitting down with us today. How are you doing? How are things going over at Graham?
First, I want to thank you for having me on the program. I'm excited to talk about Graham football and what we got going on in athletics at Graham. Everything's been going really well for me today. I'm excited, getting a little mowing done early today. So, typical task of a football coach in the summer.
Yeah. Field care is just as important in the summertime as anything else. It's a big thing you guys have to do, and something that we're all appreciative of you doing. You guys do a fantastic job getting everything ready and good to go for the upcoming season. We're in the dead period right now, but you guys have been going pretty hard this offseason, I would imagine. How have things looked in the preseason? How are you feeling about what you got coming into Graham this year?
I feel really good about what we're doing this offseason. We've really it's been a season of change for us as far as from the previous season to the next. So we've kind of changed up some of our philosophies in the summer to give our kids a little bit of time to spend with their family, but also recommitting them to the weight room, being the number one priority for us. So we've kind of focused on the internal part of Graham football, which is the day-to-day team building items such as lifting in the weight room with each other, making sure that they communicate the proper way with one another, checking in on every student athlete that we have in the program, making sure that everything's going well with them as far as when they're here on our facility and when they're at home and with their family. For us, it's just been a renewed commitment to building it the right way. And for us to have success, we have to do that. We have to make sure that our student athletes are prioritized and we do everything we can to maximize their ability on the field and when they leave the field and what they have to deal with at home. So it's been a really good summer for us in off season.
Right. Now, Coach, you're going into your second year as the coach at Graham over there. What did you learn last year? What have you taken away? What have you changed in terms of your coaching philosophy as you prepare for this year? What are some of the lessons you took from last year going into year number two?
For me, it was the first year that we were in the new conference, and being a guy that's coached for a number of years and stuff, sometimes you feel like you have the answers to everything. And sometimes you need to be a little bit humble. And I feel like that process took place during last year's football season because we had a lot of new faces as far as personnel on the team when it comes to the players. And I felt like at times I didn't focus enough on the team building aspect of it. The day-to-day, it really impacts your program when the student athletes have to go in the weight room and spot each other and lift and sweat a little bit and joke about things and push each other. And so that's kind of been where we've grown the most is we've kind of set on a core group that has been our leaders to show up every day when we have a workout, and they hold the other ones accountable that don't show up. And I think the number one thing from last year going into this season, especially for me as a coach, is being more accountable and learning more. When you go through a season like went through last year, if you don't look in the mirror and change things and see that you don't have all the answers, and you gotta reach out to some of those mentors that you have and ask some tough questions, and you gotta reach for resources that you may not have previously wanted to use. But it's been a process of growing as a coach for me and my staff, and it's definitely had a positive impact on the players. And I definitely see us heading in the right direction, especially on the field and in the classroom. So we're continuing to try to build the character of Graham football to make sure the community is proud of it.
Right. Now, you touched on it a little bit there. You mentioned your core that you've kind of developed over this offseason, some of those guys that are going to be your leaders. You had some seniors last year, but you were a fairly young roster. How receptive have those guys been to stepping into that leadership role? Is that something you kind of had to talk to them about, or is it something that just came about naturally of the way that they carry themselves?
A lot of people look at leadership in different ways. You have your very vocal leaders, some people that really look forward to stepping out there and showing guys, this is the way it needs to be done, and holding people accountable and being more vocal. But for us, we really have always had a lot of internal leadership where they do the right thing. They show up every day. They take a young guy that isn't familiar with the program under their wings and say, hey, come work out with me. You got any questions? Let me help you. So we have a lot of those guys that are quiet leaders, and they just do the right things. You don't ever have to worry about, is so-and-so going to show up to the workout? Will they help the young guy out that's new to the program and help develop them? We've been blessed that a lot of our leaders have definitely been from our younger class. That's a group that were freshmen last year that experienced what high school football was really all about, especially on a varsity level. And they have just been hungry this offseason. We've had so much buy-in from that freshman class of last year, and we picked up some sophomores that wanted to play last year out the building that will now be going into their junior year that have really led by example as well. And so for us, we just love that authentic leadership where it's not something that we nominate someone, they kind of do it themselves. The kids respect them because they see that they're putting the time in.
Right. Coach, we talk a lot about, especially this, where the world is now, a lot about culture and things like that. Obviously, we talked you going into your second year. Now, how do you feel like you have done establishing the culture you want over at Graham? Is that still in the foundational process, or do you feel like you're making some good progress in terms of building the Coach Searcy culture over there at Graham?
I feel culturally we're where we need to be. As far as one of the things that was a definite point of emphasis when I got here was to make sure that our kids did what they were supposed to do in the building when they're away from the practice field. And that's one of those issues that we don't worry about anymore. Our kids go to class, they come to school, they're good student athletes, they want to do extra, they're participating in multiple sports at Graham, they're signing up for weightlifting, they're doing all the extra things and little things that you need to do, the foundational pieces that sometimes that you overlook. But those are the most important. And so those foundational pieces, as far as doing those things, have been just a huge credit to those parents and those athletes who have bought in. And the culture, I'm very excited about it. It's a hard work, hard effort culture. Even though we had a tough season last year, there never was any question if any student athlete was going to come back on Monday and put more effort into it. They were always trying to figure out a way to be better. And so as a coach, you're just proud of that. Because, those are the foundational pieces that you can build on that will lead to success, for long-term success.
Now, I know obviously we said it already. We're in the final dead period of the summer before the first official day of practice kicks off next week as we sit here and record this. But going through the spring and into this dead period, you talked about the weight room and things like that. What did it look like on the field for you guys? What kind of schedules did you have out there actually getting some reps in the offseason?
For us, it's been really exciting. We've been working with two quarterbacks that are relatively new to our system. They're extremely talented, and they bought in, and they lead as well. On the field, we're always very, very talented with our starting 11. or 15 or so. The biggest issue for us has always been the depth. And so this summer, we've tried to do a lot of things in the weight room to push conditioning. And then when we got on the field, we've kind of just set some foundational pieces as far as what we believe in, philosophy and offense and defense and special teams. And the kids have bought in. That first week, it was a little rough. It was all new to them, the concepts and break at this certain yardage and using your hands to catch the ball or making eye contact with the quarterback, your receiver, to make sure you're on the same page, or defensively pursuing to the ball. But you could definitely see the growth from week 1 to week 2. And as we progress throughout the summer, it's just been amazing to see them just continue to pick up things. And we throw as much as we can on their plate, offensively and defensively. And they've just responded so positively to it. And we definitely have some kids that have grown this summer and that we look forward to being our playmakers because of the work that they're putting in on the field.
And now, like, we've got about just under a month until the Chatham Central game, the first game for you guys of the season. The non-conference kicks off on August 21st. Obviously, you've got a lot of practice and a lot of things still to implement there. But that was a close game last year. That was a game that you can look back on with some of those returners and say, listen, we were a break here, a break there away from coming out on top of that game. Is that something you're going to do? Is that the mindset you're going to want to have? How are you going into August 21st?
I feel like the biggest thing that we were missing from last year on the football team was, one, me as a coach, I had to be more in control of things a little bit, put my personality and a little bit of my philosophy on the kids as far as what I believe in is how we start the game. I think the way we finished games last year was unbelievable. I mean, a lot of those scores, you'll see them and it's 70-0 or this or that, but our kids didn't quit. They always wanted to go back in the game and finish the game the right way and encouraged each other. And so we tried to build off of that, especially with that week 1 opponent in Chatham Central. We felt like it was mutually beneficial for us to play each other to start the season because our programs mirror each other in a lot of ways as far as in the beginning of the season, we still have a couple guys that need to show up a couple days to be able to play. And so we go to that game with similar numbers as far as participation numbers. And we really felt like it was beneficial for both of us to push each other and to be similar in competition level to start off with. And that game is usually a toss-up because it's the first week of the season. I always tell my kids that first game for us is about who's going to be in the best shape. So we try to be in the best shape in that game. We came up a little short last year. But the message going into week 1 is we have to start the game better. And we got to take care of the little things. And so that'll be the message that we'll preach on them leading up to August 21st is the start of the game. We have to start the right way, and we have to continue to finish. And I think if we do those things, we'll have a positive outcome in week 1.
Right. Now, from a coaching standpoint, from your perspective, the way you're looking at things, you talked about you working into some 2 new quarterbacks, kind of getting them familiar with the system. But when you look at the roster from last year, what's coming back, you've got a lot of your main skill production, especially on the offensive side of the ball, that is returning. How does that make you feel more comfortable as a coach going into this? And do you feel like you've got kind of a head start when July 29th does show up?
I feel really good about it. That's been the thing, trying to develop that core group. And the skill positions at Graham, we've always been blessed with some extremely talented athletes that come out and from one year to the next, they have just bought in. They've gotten stronger. They've transformed their bodies. They've worked on the little things in their games as far as route running and blocking and tackling and coverage assignments and reading keys. It's been a real point of emphasis for us this summer. And that group really has me excited because I think they will lift the team and put us in a position to really make some noise this year. And a group that we're really excited about is up front. I feel like this will be the group that will be significantly bigger compared to what we've had the previous seasons. And they're going to be young, but they've been working their tails off this offseason. They've played multiple sports, like I mentioned earlier. They're extremely competitive, and they work great as a group. One of the coaches I grew up in this game of football, learning how to be a coach under. Always said the most important group is the front lines, and they don't have to be the strongest, the fastest, the most talented, but they have to communicate and work great together. And so that group has me extremely excited in progressing with our skill positions to put us in a position to be where we want to be in this year coming up for football.
Right. And now on the other side of the ball, defensively, it obviously the same things could be said. The skill guys out there, the trenches in there. How are you guys feeling things are coming along on the defensive side of the ball to this point in the offseason?
I feel like that's a position where we're going to be relatively young in a couple spots, but I feel like that group, effort-wise, is going to be where we need to be. So even though we will have a little more youth on that side of the ball, I think the effort and the attention to detail will be very, very much better on that side of the ball. I can see that style of defense for us being very aggressive because that fits our personality of our kids in football. And they've been flying around this summer and making plays and getting excited about playing defensive football. And so I feel like that group is going to continue to progress, even though they're going to be a fairly young position. Some of those position groups are going to be fairly young for us.
Going into the non-conference schedule, like I said, we don't play games on paper, obviously, but they are some favorable matchups, some things you guys can maybe build some momentum going into the gauntlet that is going to be the conference schedule. What's going to be your approach? Obviously, we talked about the Chatham Central game, but how are you going to go in with the mindset into that non-conference schedule before you get ready for what's going to be a really tough conference schedule the rest of the way?
So the goal when we did the non-conference schedule was, one, to face teams that were similar to us as far as size of football team, as far as the numbers in the beginning of the season, to give us a chance to get the participation up when school started. And I think that's been, pretty positive for us. And then two, we realized that those teams are similar to us in programs as far as they're trying to rebuild. They're doing it the right way. We just felt like all the games were mutually beneficial for both programs when we made this non-conference schedule. And it gave our program and the programs that we play a very good chance to start off the season and have positive things leading into their conference play. And so that's how we look at our three non-conference games, with Chatham Central going there this year, coming home for Cedar Ridge, another program that is similar to us, and then finishing up with East Chapel Hill at home for our third non-conference game. We just felt like for us to start with that type of non-conference schedule would give us something positive and help us recruit the hallways and get some of those kids that were on the fence to possibly come out there and join the team once school started. That would help us bolster the team with needed depth at positions and special teams as we enter into the heart of the conference schedule. And so we're looking forward to that again this year, and we feel like that gives us a great chance to build the program in the right ways.
Right. Now, Coach, this isn't something you and I got to talk a lot about last year, but it was the first year, you mentioned it, that all the Alamance County schools were back in the same conference. It's been a long time since that has happened. It was a lot of fun. How did you feel about the conference last year, and how excited are you again? Because honestly, there's been some things happening this summer that maybe have turned the volume up a little bit on that conference, on those conference games, and how much they're going to intensify. So how excited are you to go back into that conference schedule this year?
Well, as I stated last year, it's just exciting to have those old rivalries renewed. Our kids every week, even though we were a developmental program, we're playing those teams and we're trying to take the next step, and we knew we were going to play some tougher opponents. Every week you go into practice or you walk the halls talking to them, they're like, hey, so-and-so on this team, we played on this youth football team together. We played middle school ball together. And so I can't wait to go against this kid or this team. And we heard stories like that every day leading up to the games and even after the games. And it lived up to it. It was a tough conference, and it still is. You have so many outstanding coaches that are in this conference and the programs. It's just, you have to bring your A game every week, and it causes you to challenge yourself as a coach, as a team. And, for us, it was remarkable we get to the game. And like I said, our kids sometimes will be overmatched most of the times against some of the bigger teams in the conference. But the heart, we always finish the game the right way. We always learn something about ourselves coming out of those games that we didn't know. And it was always something positive that we didn't know about ourselves. And it was just the sense of, Coach, we got to do this. I need to do this to be a better player so we can compete in this conference. And they look forward to that challenge. They were like, I can't wait for next year because now I know what I got to do as a player to be able to compete at that level. And that's the same thing as a coach. For me, this offseason has been about a lot of inner reflection as far as going outside the box and trying to learn what could be the style of football that would help us succeed at Graham. I think that's one of the important things. You have to find what your student athletes can do, and you have to maximize that. And, it may change from week to week based on your personnel, what they can do, but you have to continue to grow as a program individually with those athletes to put them in positions to be successful. This conference is loaded, with your Southern Alamances and what they did with Coach Hester doing an unbelievable job his first year as the head coach. Coach Stokes at Williams, he is just a machine right now with that program. You want to see a professionally run program, that is it from top to bottom. I mean, everything they have from social media to community involvement, sponsorship, coaching staff, that is the standard as far as that. Coach Aguilar, who was another one that is the standard, comes into Southeast Alamance and has turned them into a powerhouse as far as I'm concerned. They're always going to give you their best shot, and they're always going to be right there in the end to compete for the championship. And then you have Eastern Alamance with Coach Kirby coming back, and he's just that constant pro, that stability, that stable factor that always knows what to do at the right time to push the buttons of his student athletes and his coaches to get the best out of them. And then with the change at Western Alamance, those coaches are going to do an unbelievable job. They're going to have their kids fired up and ready to go every week. You talk about Cummings with Coach Penix over there. He's bringing that passion. Those kids are going to play with so much intensity and passion and preparedness that you definitely have to respect Cummings. And then Person, I think it was a team that snuck up on all of us this year in the conference because we weren't really aware of how big and fast they were and how hard they played during the game. I mean, they were the toughest opponent as far as how hard they played from whistle to whistle, and even the echo of the whistle, as we tell them as coaches. And it was just, our kids came out there saying, whoa, we gotta get in the weight room. So this conference is just so tough. And it challenges you to be your best as a coach and as a player. And so we look forward to it. And hopefully the non-conference schedule will set us up to put us in a position where when it comes down to it, we can compete with those teams.
Right. Well, Coach, this has been fantastic. I want to thank you again for sitting down with us. Kind of want to finish up on this one here. You talked a little bit about it. Some of the scores may not reflect this necessarily, but anybody that was watching, paying attention to Graham football knows you guys, as you say, finished every game strong, and you got better as the year went on. You finished the year a whole lot different than the team that started the season. Is that something in your mind that you're going to try and reflect on and build off of that momentum? Or are you more of a head down, let's go right into a brand new year? What happened last year, well, now we've got to move on.
I feel like as a coach, you have to reflect on everything to put it into perspective to grow. And so for me, the entire offseason was, let's go back through some of the film. Let's look at what we struggled with and what we were really good at. And then it was loving up on our student athletes and letting them know that we're proud of them. In today's society, some of their friends and family members, they see those scores and the community will get on them sometimes, those that aren't familiar with the game, and they'll give them, a hard time. And so for us, it was about loving them up and putting everything into perspective and refocusing them on what the task at hand is. And for me as a coach, it was about becoming a better coach for them to do the things that put them in a position to have a chance to compete and win these games. And I feel really well about how we're growing. Definitely looking forward to this year's team. I can definitely see that they're going to be tougher than the team that we had last year mentally because of what they've done this offseason and because there's familiarity with each other on the team. I think that's a big part of it, especially in football right now. you got to have a core group that is familiar with each other, that can lift each other up when someone's not having their best day. And sometimes a coach can't do that, and it takes their own teammates to be able to get through to them to get the best out of them. And that's what excites me about this group that we have. I can see that, like we talked about earlier, that leadership, that internal leadership. It won't be someone they'll yell at someone in front of everybody. They'll have a conversation with them in the locker room one-on-one, and it'll be respectful. And then you'll see the demeanor of that athlete change, and they'll come out there and give you what they have. And as a coach, that's all you can ask for, that they give you everything they have. And we're going to keep growing as a program. And we just want to make the community proud of us in the end. And I feel like we're heading in that direction, and we continue to strive to be that kind of program.
Right. Well, Coach, like I said, you've got me fired up. I'm ready for some Graham football. I know here at WBAG, we're all excited to see the product you guys put on the field. We can't wait to get into the month of August and really get all the way to August 21st to get this thing kicked off. Just want to say thank you so much again for sitting down with us. Best of luck this season. We can't wait to see what you've got coming.
Thank you, and I really appreciate you. I want to thank my AD, Coach Wallace, who is new, my administration team led by Principal Gwynn, and Assistant Principal Barfield, Ricks, and Curtis, the staff and the community that has been outstanding, and the parents and the student athletes. It's just something that you can't do on your own. It takes a village, and I want to thank you guys for giving us the opportunity to reach out and speak and let people know what's going on in our programs. And we really appreciate that outreach. And so can't thank you enough for the time.
Absolutely. We enjoy doing it. And like I say, good luck to you guys over at Graham. Can't wait to see what happens this season.
Thank you.